What was found at David's Hollywood Hills home? An incinerator? Yes. Apparently, a burn incinerator was found at the home that was rented by David Anthony Burke by none other than the private investigator that was hired by the homeowner to investigate the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez as it pertained to the home. And this is so crazy. I'm going to give you an update on exactly what was found and when it was found, and also just a small update on the grand jury. But first, if you don't subscribe to this channel, make sure you do. Los Angeles Magazine. I'm Lauren Conlin, and this is our pop culture scandals and crime news podcast. Let's go to the specific tweet that private investigator Steve Fisher tweeted this week. I believe it was this week. And listen, I have to say, and I have to admit, Steve and we spoke a lot about this case. And as a journalist, as a reporter, when you talk to someone about a case and everything is off the record, I think some people might say, what is the point of that? Why do you even talk to them? Well, it just helps keep certain things in the back of your mind when you're reporting on the story or when you're writing about it. So I actually knew that this thing was found at David's home. I want to say maybe a few months ago. And, Steve shared with me off the record. Again, we have a close relationship where he knew I wasn't going to say anything. I wasn't going to tell anyone because I know how important certain things are to keep quiet because I don't want to mess up an investigation. But it sounds like Steve has been squaring everything away so that it was okay to disclose this information. And again, for those of you who might not be as familiar with this case, I'll just quickly say this is David. He is a singer. He has not been heard from at all since I want to say early September. Yes, early September, when September 8th, there was a body found in the front of his car, and it was a 14-year-old little girl, Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who he has been allegedly linked to. I say allegedly because we don't know the facts surrounding their relationship. However, we know that he is 19 and she is 14. So it's not great, or she was 14, I should say. Awful to say. So David subsequently canceled his tour. He postponed his Withered Deluxe album. He moved out of his Hollywood home. He transferred homes to his mother. He hired a high-powered attorney. And still, we have seen no charges, no arrests, and actually, we haven't heard anything from David at all. Now, cue Steve Fisher, who was hired by the homeowner, the home that David was living in. It was rented by his manager, Josh Marshall. He moves out and they leave a lot of stuff behind, a lot of, hard drives behind, a lot of items that Steve was able to tangibly possess. And this thing that we're about to talk about is one of them. And look, I mean, I feel like I have to say this. Does this imply any sort of guilt that David did this to Celeste, that he red-rummed her? I mean, no, it doesn't, but it's just so weird. And when you have this many coincidences, you have to ask yourself if you actually believe in coincidences. So, this is just part of an article that I wrote for LA Magazine, but basically Steve Fisher said he located this boxed metal incinerator that's advertised to burn at temperatures up to 1,600 degrees. Okay. Why does one need something like that? Why would you need to burn something up to 1,600 degrees? I mean, that's wild to me. My parents live in New Hampshire. And, my dad is constantly doing our lawn. He's collecting branches, wood, grass, whatever. I mean, we don't have an incinerator. He doesn't have an incinerator. And I don't know if I'm necessarily making sense. I'm just thinking about, my dad seems like a guy who could probably use one of these, but he doesn't have one. So let me pull up again. I'll read through Steve's quote. Make it a little bigger for you guys. So again, one of those items that he found, he said you would expect to possibly find it on a farm rather than in a home in the Hollywood Hills. And one of those items was a burn cage incinerator. Human cremations are typically performed at 1400 degrees, and an incinerator is not legal to use within city limits and serves no legitimate purposes at a residential property in the Hollywood Hills. And by the way, I did fact check all of this, and Steve is correct. It is not typical for one to have one of these. Additionally, it's really not legal in Los Angeles or in the city, so that's very interesting. And he also said, to be clear, the burn cage was not used. It was still new and in the box. However, given that Celeste Rivas Hernandez remains were ultimately found in the Tesla frunk, the presence of an incinerator at the same residence associated with the vehicle necessarily raises questions about the intent. Now, this is what's totally crazy. The burn cage was not taken during the search warrant because it was not used, and it appears it's not of importance to any possible criminal investigation, but we think it's important context, even if not criminal. The burn cage and other related items were delivered to the residents under a false name, although the deliveries were accepted at the property. I mean, and this is what it looks like. I mean, that was the box. Oof. That is crazy. I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend to know what LAPD is thinking, what they are looking for exactly when they walk into that home or when they walked into the home and they had that search warrant. We were told by various reports that they were looking for blood evidence. I don't think they found any. I mean, I think that could potentially link to a possible arrest, but we know now that a grand jury has convened in Los Angeles, and they are currently being presented with evidence and witnesses for the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, and hoping that eventually somebody can be charged with her red rum. In the meantime, this grand jury specifically, they are constantly in charge of recommending subpoenas, recommending subpoenas for certain witnesses to come forward and testify, or they're recommending that certain evidence be obtained. I mean, who knows? There could be a second search warrant issued for the home after this is released and kind of goes viral, because I also feel like the LAPD is really relying on the media sometimes, or I shouldn't say relying, they're reacting on the media. They're reacting to anything and everything that's put out. I feel like they must hate Steve Fisher. They must be like, oh my God, dude, everything you put out makes us have to go ahead and give another statement to the press to clarify something. Same with TMZ. They must be like, guys, just stop. However, again, I'm a big Steve fan because Steve has kept this really close until he can't. So with that being said, it was pretty clear to many people that Steve also testified in front of the grand jury. And I say it was clear to many people because he tweeted about it essentially without telling us exactly. And that's legal. Witnesses, they don't have to be quiet. They generally should not share with us what they said. If I may offer that opinion, but they can talk about it. So I did briefly discuss with him, like, what do you think? Do you think that we'll see an arrest soon based on what you have encountered, what you have seen over there? He's like, I don't think so. Not for a long time. I mean, that sucks. That sucks. And that's not what I wanted to hear, of course. That's not what I thought either. I thought maybe they would be like making progress at this point. But I mean, yeah, I guess like, this is the box now that I'm looking at it again. Would you take this if you were police? Would you take a good hard look at this and say, actually, I don't know. I probably would. A burn cage. It says burn cage. That is so strange. Yeah, I have chills on this. I have chills. I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. And I am hoping that somebody does the right thing. Uh, there's that cliche phrase, someone knows something. And that's true. In this case, someone knows something. Do the right thing and come forward, really. All right. That is all for today. I get so mad talking about this sometimes because I just feel so bad for this little girl and the fact that we don't have a case yet. I mean, and I say we, like I'm part of this. I know that I'm not part of this, but yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Lauren Conlin from Los Angeles Magazine. I will be back tomorrow with another pop culture scandal and crime news podcast.